This is my event recap for UFC Fight Night Vegas 2 I versus Calvillo, which has just wrapped up. And although coming into this card, we did not see the high-profile names on the main card and in the main event that we are used to seeing, it still delivered in a major way. I loved this card. There were amazing finishes on the prelims. There were great performances on the main card. There were coming out parties on the main card as well, with some new stars emerging. I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight, starting with our early prelim opener of Anthony Ivy versus Christian Aguilera, which was a little bit of a parlay breaker. I'm sure a lot of people were picking Anthony Ivy here. I did say if Aguilera was going to win, it was going to be with some wild exchange in the first round. That's what Aguilera is known for. Aguilera gets the job done over Anthony Ivy. Anthony Ivy was a good prospect coming into the UFC, was supposed to be filling in not too long ago for another opponent. They shifted him onto this card. Christian Aguilera is always entertaining, gets the job done in the first round. Little bit questionable on how much power was really behind that punch that led to the KO, and it really does make me worry about Anthony Ivy going forward. However, Christian Aguilera is clearly an absolute savage, completely destroyed Anthony Ivy, gets the job done, a new addition to the welterweight division. I like it. There are plenty of welterweights that are new to the UFC at the moment, a bunch of great names, Daniel Rodriguez. You know, Kevin Holland is moving down to welterweight as well. We've got Diego Lima, a veteran, going back on a streak. You've got a bunch of guys at welterweight. Chaos Williams. The list goes on and on. Christian Aguilera just inserts himself amongst that group. Amazing performance by him, getting a KO in the first round. That was the only fight, basically, on the entire card I got wrong. Tyson Nam versus Zaruk Adashev. Wow. Tyson Nam should maybe stick at bantamweight, because I haven't seen that power out of him his entire career. At flyweight, he hits like a fucking pillow-fisted bitch. Goes up to bantamweight and absolutely smokes this guy in the first round. I mean, don't get me wrong, I knew he was going to win. I didn't think he was going to win in that fashion. I mean, the fact was Zaruk Adashev should not be in the UFC. He was 3-1. He's now 3-2. I don't think the UFC can keep him around, which they usually do for guys that take fights in the UFC. They usually get 2 chances, but with a record like 3-2, this ain't the women's flyweight division. You know, this ain't the women's bantamweight division or the women's featherweight division. Get out. Go back to the drawing board, Zaruk Adashev. A tough loss for him. He didn't look in shape. I know he wasn't ready for this bout. It was pretty obvious. Tyson Nam just went out there and completely obliterated him, getting the job done. Zaruk Adashev back to the drawing board. Hopefully we'll see him in a few years. Tyson Nam just obliterated him. Great performance. If he wants to go back down to flyweight, then he can. I think he should take on Brandon Royval at flyweight. I think that would be a great performance. Also, Jourdain Espinosa called out Tyson Nam at a flyweight bout, so if they want to make that fight as well, Jourdain Espinosa was coming off a big win this card, which we'll get to in a second. There are options for Tyson Nam is what I'm trying to say. Or Tyson Nam versus Casey Kenny at bantamweight. 2 unranked guys. Who knows? It's up to Tyson Nam what he wants to do next, but a great performance and a great KO in the first round. Just absolutely annihilated him. Brutal. Julia Avila versus Gina Mazzani. Good performance. Destroyed Gina Mazzani, as I expected. Julia Avila, I thought she was going to get a decision. She just went out there and obliterated her in the first round. I am all in favour of permanently reducing the size of the cage, because it seems like we are getting way more entertaining fights in these smaller cages. It's way more action-packed. Gina Mazzani actually had a moment in the fight where she was looking good, and then Julia Avila just landed a quick shot, and I said it in the fight commentary that I was doing live. Gina Mazzani's going to get out of this fight pretty quickly. Avila landed a good shot. Mazzani just shelled up against the cage and let it happen. And Avila rained down shots. Great performance. A new women's bantamweight who's now 8-1 in the UFC, or 8-1 overall in her career, which is a very good record. I look forward to seeing where things go from here. She called out Shayna Dobson. I don't know why, but she did call her out, and that's pretty weird. But then again, Maria Agapova also called out Shayna Dobson. I guess that's someone everyone wants to fight, but still, Julia Avila, I think there's a plethora of women's bantamweights that she could take on next, and I look forward to seeing what she does with her time. I think she's a very good fighter. 8-1 is a respectable record. That's not something you come by too often in women's divisions. Julia Avila gets the job done in the first round. Merab Dvalishvili versus Gustavo Lopez. I mean, it's Merab. You know, I knew he was going to win this fight. I did think it was going to be this dominant. I predicted he would win a dominant third round. I thought he was actually going to get a submission at one point in the fight. I predicted a submission for him, but he ended up just dominating it for 3 rounds, a couple 10-8 rounds in there for good measure. I think one could only be really seen as a 10-8 round, but even still, Merab Dvalishvili just did not let Gustavo Lopez have a chance in that fight. Improves his record. I feel as though Merab's going to earn a shot up the rankings here, or, in my opinion, a fight against a potential up-and-comer himself, Montel Jackson, who's on a bit of a streak in the division right now at bantamweight. Merab Dvalishvili, Montel Jackson. I know he called out Sean O'Malley, but let's face it, Sean O'Malley's looking for Rob Fonts. He's looking for Cody Garbrandt, for God's sake. Like, he's open to a Cody Garbrandt fight. I'm not sure he's going to be looking down the list at a Merab Dvalishvili, which is a terrible matchup for him. I just don't think that fight's going to come to fruition, and even Dana White was asked about the fight afterwards. He dodged that shit real quick, slipped that question. Yeah, Merab's a great fighter, we'll give him what he wants, turn around real quick. Dodge that one, I like it, but even still, I don't think it's a matchup that makes sense at the moment. Merab needs to win one more before he gets his jump inside the rankings. He does have those losses in his career, as controversial as they may be. He has a loss to Ricky Simone, he has a loss to Frankie Sainz. They're going to hold him back. Even though I thought he won both of them and probably could have been given a win against Ricky Simone, because that was a weird situation. It probably should have been called a no contest or a draw. They're still going to hold him back in his career. But Merab Dvalishvili just did what he was supposed to do, completely dominated the guy that was supposed to be dominated by him. Very good performance. Merab Dvalishvili gets the job done. Him versus Montel Jackson I would like to see next, and if he wins that one, then we can give him the jump in the rankings that he deserves. Give him a spot on the main card next fight night, though. Headliner of the prelims, puts on a good show, absolute dominant performance. Shift him onto the main card from now on these fight nights. Moving on. Maria Agapova versus Hannah Cifers. Okay. She's a big girl for flyweight. I don't know how she makes flyweight, but then again, Hannah Cifers is not a big girl for flyweight whatsoever, so Maria Agapova just completely obliterated her. It's Hannah Cifers. She's not a good fighter. She doesn't know what to do at all. I mean, it's no surprise. Maria Agapova went out there, got the job done, completely obliterated her, smashed her to pieces, landed a great head kick, which I thought was going to lead into a TKO, which I would have personally loved, because how often do you see head kick KOs in the women's flyweight division that doesn't include Valentina Shevchenko? You don't see them too often, so if Agapova could get one of them, that would be amazing. She looks like she actually knows what she's doing, which is very rare for a female fighter, so 9-1. Great resume. She's looking for Shayna Dobson. I don't mind that fight. It's outside the rankings. I think she needs one more. Then we'll look to move her inside the rankings. But what a dominant start for her in her UFC debut against a tough girl, at least. Even though she's not that technical and she's not that good, she's a tough girl, is Hannah Cifers. And Maria Agapova put her out in the first round, which not a lot of people have been able to do to Hannah Cifers. Maria Agapova looked great. She's a huge girl for the division. I think there might be an actual threat somewhat brewing in the works eventually to pose some kind of threat to Valentina Shevchenko. We're trying everything we can at the moment, and I feel like if Maria Agapova beats Shayna Dobson and Antonina Shevchenko beats one more opponent, then we can match the pair of them up inside the rankings. Then we can look to boost them up the rankings if they win that next fight. But Maria Agapova announced herself in vicious fashion, getting a job done in style on the main card by first round submission. Very great performance. Jourdain Espinosa versus Mark De La Rosa. Jourdain Espinosa was just Uriah Hall in him. Like Uriah Hall versus Paulo Costa, except Jourdain Espinosa never just cornered himself up against a cage like an idiot like Uriah Hall did, and let Paulo Costa rip shots on him. Jourdain Espinosa got it done, stuck a jab in Mark De La Rosa's face the entire time. Every time Mark De La Rosa went against a cage, it was like, how are you expecting to win this fight by doing this? Like, this isn't a position of any dominance whatsoever. You're grabbing onto a single leg, and Espinosa is raining elbows down on you the entire time. How do you think you're winning this fight in this position? Try something. And it just looked like Mark De La Rosa realized he was outgunned immediately and just didn't really have an answer for Jourdain Espinosa. Just the elbows in the clinch, separating. There were some vicious elbows from Espinosa. He looked great at bantamweight. I think he should go back down to flyweight. Again, Tyson Nam, if Nam's looking to stay at bantamweight, then stay there. If he's looking to come back down, then do Nam versus Espinosa at flyweight. I wouldn't mind that matchup. Or if Nam does stick at bantamweight, Espinosa versus Brandon Royval would be an amazing fight. Or David Dvorak, another good newcomer in the UFC, coming off a big win in his debut. Espinosa versus Dvorak would be a good one as well. There's plenty to make. Mark De La Rosa definitely should be cut from the UFC. That's 3 in a row. Montana De La Rosa definitely wears the pants in the relationship. She's going to be the breadwinner from now on. But Mark De La Rosa, I'm sure you'll make a good corner man. It just doesn't seem like it's for you. You didn't look like you wanted it, I'll be honest. So you're probably not even that upset about being cut. You know, it was kind of coming for a while now. We've seen Mark De La Rosa's career kind of sink into nothingness. Unfortunate as it is, we can't have guys going on 3-fight losing streaks in the UFC, especially with a lackluster performance like that against Espinoza. Espinoza gets the job done, and Agapova and Espinoza were the start of my parlay that I had on the main card. The next fight on my parlay was Andre Fili against Charles Jourdain. I've picked Fili to win. By the way, let me quickly glance over this card. I picked Ivy, I lost it. I picked Nam, I picked Avila, I picked Merab. These were pretty easy predictions. I picked Espinoza, Agapova, Andre Fili. I did very well on this card, by the way. Andre Fili got the job done against Charles Jourdain. I honestly thought it was an amazing fight. I don't know how anyone scored it for Charles Jourdain, but honestly, with some of the decisions we were having earlier in the card, I didn't mind that there was a split decision to Charles Jourdain. Like, I knew it was going to go to Andre Fili, but that second round, although I saw it quite clearly for Andre Fili, I understand that maybe a judge blinked 10 times perfectly and missed some certain strikes that Fili was landing, and maybe missed the takedown that Fili landed as well and was giving Charles Jourdain some kind of magical points or something like that. But Andre Fili clearly won this fight. He's really coming into his own. He looked great. He definitely hurt his arm blocking those kicks. I mean, Charles Jourdain kicks like a fucking mule. Great kicks from Charles Jourdain. But Andre Fili just weathered the storm in the first round. Got dropped, bounced back up. I thought that the dropping is the only thing that gave Charles Jourdain that first round, because Andre Fili was winning it very comfortably before then. However, Andre Fili just went straight into the grappling, and it was noticed that Charles Jourdain cannot defend takedowns. I was surprised that Fili did not go for more takedowns, because every time he wanted them, they were right there waiting for him. Charles Jourdain, I said this before the fight in my full fight prediction video, does not know how to defend takedowns. He is great on the feet, and if you put him against strikers, he's going to have some fun matchups. But with guys that can shoot takedowns like Andre Fili and time that double leg well, they're going to take down Charles Jourdain. Unless he fixes his holes in his game, which I know he's working on, but he's got a lot more work to do. I like Charles Jourdain. I respect him for showing up the way he did and putting on a great contest back and forth. He had his moments. He never stopped kicking. He never stopped throwing. He was trying spinning back fist. He was trying flying knees. He tried everything. Not like Mark De La Rosa. He actually put it out all on the line, being a huge underdog, tried to get the job done, but Andre Fili's just too much of a veteran, just got into his prime, looking better than ever, had a close fight with Sadiq Youssef, got the job done in this one. I feel as though a good fight to make for Andre Fili would be Cub Swanson. Two guys, Cali guys, West Coast in America. I feel like that'd be a good matchup. Andre Fili versus Cub Swanson. He said he wants a big name. Cub Swanson isn't quite ranked, but those ranked guys are going to have to figure it out amongst themselves at the moment. I feel as though Andre Fili versus Cub Swanson is a good fight to make in the meantime, in a few months. Call it September or October, on a pay-per-view, on the prelims of a pay-per-view. It'll be a great addition to one of those cards. Andre Fili versus Cub Swanson. Amazing fight and an amazing performance by Andre Fili. Every time he wanted to take down, it was there. Blocking the kicks well, even though it ended up hurting his hand. He kept throwing it. Very good stuff from Andre Fili. I liked how he got the job done. For Charles Jourdain, I don't know what's next for him. A featherweight coming off a loss. There's plenty of them around. Maybe Kevin Aguilar versus Charles Jourdain. Kevin Aguilar versus Charles Rosa took place at lightweight on this card, but usually those guys fight at featherweight. Kevin Aguilar looked very chubby showing up on the scales. I picked Charles Rosa to win this one as an underdog. A lot of people agreed with a lot of my predictions on this card, except for the Charles Rosa one. I'm sorry, I'm just a genius. Charles Rosa won the fight. He's great on the feet. I don't know how a lot of people saw this as a robbery. I mean, Charles Rosa, look at the strike numbers. Again, they show the strikes in the middle of the fight, and it says it's in favor of Aguilar. I'm telling you guys, don't listen to the strike numbers in the middle of the fight. Just don't, because they're all wrong. I said it with Magny versus Rocco Martin. They showed the first 2 rounds for Magny, and I was like, what the fuck are those numbers? They've made them up. The numbers are real close. Don't listen to those numbers whatsoever. Everyone laughed after the fight was over that we saw the numbers. They were razor close. I'm counting strikes. I know what I'm looking at. Charles Rosa was not vastly behind in that fight. I thought he lost the first round. It was close, but I gave it to Kevin Aguilar. But in the second and third round, how'd you not give those rounds to Charles Rosa? He landed the bigger shots. He rocked Kevin Aguilar on multiple occasions. Not rocked him, but Kevin Aguilar went stiff-legged and had a couple jelly leg and wobbly moments, but quickly regained himself. But Charles Rosa landed the bigger shots. He landed great body kicks, landing great leg kicks as well. Charles Rosa got the job done. I don't see why people have a problem with this decision. It was a close fight, don't get me wrong, but to say robbery is just like... That's like saying Magny versus Martin was a robbery. I thought Martin won that fight based on the first 2 rounds, but like, it was close and I could see it going either way. Charles Rosa got the job done. Great fight, great win for him to get straight back in the win column, back down to featherweight where he belongs. I'd like to see him versus a tough up-and-comer. Maybe, again, Aguilar could take on Charles Jourdain and we could even do Charles Rosa versus Andre Fili if the Cub Swanson fight doesn't work out. Those would be some great matchups. I got Charles Rosa right there as well. And Andre Fili versus Charles Jourdain. Marvin Vettori versus Carl Roberson. Made a full fight reaction video to this one. Marvin Vettori came out there with a fucking... made a statement in the co-main event. I mean, this is not a co-main event worthy fight, but it got bumped up because of how terrible the card is. Not terrible, but how unstacked with high-profile names the card is. Marvin Vettori took advantage of the co-main event. Showed up on weight like a fucking professional, which is less than we can say for half of the people in the co-main and main events. Did not make weight in their fights, but Marvin Vettori did. So did Cynthia Calvillo. We'll get to her in a second. But Marvin Vettori, oh my god. I did not expect it to happen like that. I thought Vettori was going to have a tough time on the feet with Roberson. Go back and forth. Maybe get hurt, but come back and hurt Roberson. Land some good shots. Eventually wear on Roberson in the 3rd round and get the TKO finish. But he just, and I like this from Vettori, didn't even care about the stand-up. Played a little bit on the stand-up in the 1st round, threw some feints, got some timing reads on Carl Roberson, and as soon as he saw the opportunity, straight in for a takedown, gets it to the ground, and it was just over from there. Even had a guillotine at one point, but Roberson defended well by walking up the cage and pushing off of it to get some momentum and roll over and roll out of the guillotine from Marvin Vettori, because that is a savage guillotine that Marvin Vettori has. Then Marvin Vettori just starts beating his fucking head in on the ground, escapes out from underneath Carl Roberson like it's nothing, gets on top, smushes him against a cage, smashes his face in. I thought it was going to be finished by TKO at one point, but eventually he sinks in the rear naked, rolls into his back. Game over. Good night, Irene. Carl Roberson, you missed weight. You were a bit of a cunt about the whole situation as well. You didn't apologise. You missed it by 5 pounds. You were the 2nd guy to show up on weigh-ins. You're not going to be everyone's happy. You're not going to be everyone's fun and happy fighter right now. They're not going to be too happy with you, I'll be honest with you. You know, the fans aren't going to be a pair of happy bunnies when they look at you from now on. I don't think Carl Roberson put on a good performance himself, but Marvin Vettori just completely dominated him. As I predicted, I did not see it going the way it did in the 1st round, though, and that just shows me that Marvin Vettori is learning. He's got a much better fight IQ, and for the emotional Vettori, I was expecting a 1st round of absolute mayhem, back and forth. But it shows you that even under complete emotional distress that he was in during this bad blood Carl Roberson fight, he can still have the fight IQ to just shoot a takedown, get into positional dominance, and just start raining down punches and look for a rear naked choke. He didn't gas himself out. He didn't overexert himself looking for the TKO win. He was patient. He got the job done. Good win from Marvin Vettori, showing us his fight IQ. Amazing performance. And then in the main event, done another full fight reaction video to this one as well. Jessica Eye versus Cynthia Calvillo. I mean, Calvillo just outstruck her and got the takedowns. I don't know how I thought she was winning the fight. So cornermen are just lying to her. I just don't know how the flyweight division exists. I don't know how she was number 1 in any division. That makes no sense to me. I know she has some wins in the UFC over some decent names, but even still, I mean, she beat Vivian Araújo, she lost to Shevchenko, but she beat Caitlin Chookagian. She has some decent wins, but it's just like number 1 in a division looking like that. That just shows you how bad this flyweight division is. I actually picked Cynthia Calvillo last minute. I made a parlay on this card, by the way. I went through Agapova, Espinoza, Andre Fili, Charles Rosa, and Cynthia Calvillo. Bet £10, won 140. I thought that was a pretty good parlay. I wanted to put Vettori on there as well. I would have been right, but Roberson missed weight, so the betting company didn't want to put him on there because they didn't know what was going to happen when guys miss weight by 5 pounds. So they took the betting availability off. If I got Vettori on there as well, I probably would have made 500 out of £10. 6-fight parlay like that on the main card. I thought that was going to be pretty good, but Cynthia Calvillo gets it done. Originally, I predicted Jessica Eye. I stuck with Jessica Eye, though, just out of habit of my original prediction, but I slid a nice sneaky bet. Changed my mind last minute after the weigh-ins. Cynthia Calvillo got it done. Good body shots. Opened up upstairs as well after she went to the body on Jessica Eye. Started loading up to the head. Landed some good shots, but the takedowns at the end of every round won her the fight. The control that she had on her back. I mean, she had good positional dominance on the ground. Her jiu-jitsu is very good. At least you can take away that from Cynthia Calvillo. Next fight should be against Katlyn Chookagian. Katlyn Chookagian's already called her out. Calvillo versus Chookagian. Main card of a pay-per-view. Slide it in at number 4 spot on the main card just after the opener. Put an amazing main card around it. I'm thinking Derek Lewis versus Alistair Overeem, Cynthia Calvillo versus Katlyn Chookagian, Jared Cannonier versus Yoel Romero, Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. Stop me when I'm starting to be a bit boring. I think that would be an amazing card. Cynthia Calvillo, I think, should look for a quick turnaround, but let's get it going. In hindsight, it's good that they were the main event because now we have some hype around the women's flyweight division, but before there wasn't a lot of anticipation. But for Vettori and Roberson needs to get straight back to the drawing board, and Vettori should be looking for a rematch with Omari Akhmedov. Their first fight went to a draw. A rematch with Antonio Carlos Jr. Their first fight went to a very close decision to Antonio Carlos Jr. Or a fight with Tavares to follow in the steps of Israel Adesanya, or a fight with Jotko. The opportunities are endless for Marvin Vettori. He could even look to take on the winner of Heinisch versus Brendan Allen. If it's Brendan Allen, because it looks like Heinisch is going to be looking for big names up the rankings if he does get the win over Allen. Good job, everyone on the card. Marvin Vettori was the standout performance. Dana White let the fans vote over who they think deserved the 50k bonus. They gave it to Maria Agapova. They gave it to someone else. I think it was Tyson Nam. They gave it to Marvin Vettori. Then they gave it to Aguilar. He lost, and it wasn't that good of a fight, and it wasn't even that close. I thought Rosa won pretty clearly rounds 2 and 3. But, you know, how have they given 50k to Kevin Aguilar? For losing a not that interesting fight. It was just an emotional response from the fans because they all picked Kevin Aguilar to win, not realising that Charles Rosa is actually pretty good on the feet. And they're upset that they lost. So they just fucking whinged about it, and now Aguilar gets 50k. I hope they revoke that from him, because Andre Fili deserves a bonus. And you know what? I'd even give a bonus to maybe Jordan Espinoza over Kevin Aguilar. I'd give a bonus to Christian Aguilera over Kevin Aguilar. I'd give a bonus to Julia Avila over Kevin Aguilar. I'd give a bonus to Merab Dvalishvili over Kevin Aguilar. That's a disgrace. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Good card while it lasted. Click that button there. Goodbye.